I have 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the Conval School Board meeting for December 17th to order. Would you please rise and for the pledge? So, Superintendent, I turned it over to you.
Okay, we're in for a treat tonight. Our Points of Pride is here in person. And thank you so much for all coming. What a group. So I'm going to turn it over to Brian, who leads chorus. And would you like to introduce the group?
Do you want me to use the mic for recording? I have a big voice, so I don't need it, but let me do it. Oh, for the okay. Oh, well, lovely. Okay, hi. My name is Brian Moore. I'm the director of choirs at Conval High School, among some other music courses. Behind me, we have most of our chamber choir is here tonight. You'll get a little report on them and what we're performing for you. From our senior, Kaylin Ross. We also have some programs from Kendra Reynolds. If you're interested, we'd love to invite you to the concert tomorrow night. And in case you'd like some, Kendra will come around and just place some on the table so you can see what our full repertoire is. Our apologies for not being fully represented tonight. Our chamber choir is our smaller group, as you'll see, but about 2/3 of our kids are here tonight. We're missing about 1/3 of them due to some medical illness and some other family emergencies. So right before the night before the concert, too. So it's a little bit of a crazy time, but we're really grateful for the invitation. Thank you, Dr. Forrest and the board. And we'll begin now. So, Robin, if you want to stand forward.
Yeah,
you got to talk.
Do you want to sit? So it does get awkward.
Yeah,
Sorry, I should have given you the chair.
Thank you everyone for this invitation. We'd like you to know before we begin, the chamber choir is a non-audition choir open for all students in all grades, with no choir or vocal experience necessary. By design, it's smaller than our other choirs, minus our select choir, hence the chamber name. Its purpose and mission is to provide a tiered, small group instruction for the honoring and advancement of vocal technique and musical fluency development for each student enrolled. It has its own curriculum and goals that stem from and advance upon other choir courses at Conval. Although every member of our choir is unable to be here tonight, we are very excited to perform for you. Tonight we would like to perform for you a piece entitled Hidem Tiddly Dum, arranged with new words by Mark Burrows. The story of the Nativity unfolds in this madrigal-like style of this traditional Czech carol. The words Hidem and Tiddly Dum are onomatopoeias that represent the sounds of bagpipes and drums, respectively. Although we are performing it a cappella tonight for you, it is meant to be accompanied with percussion. We hope that you enjoy the interplay between the vocal drumming alongside the message of the story. This is one of our favorites. It really is one of our favorites. We'd be delighted to invite each of you to see our full concert, including this selection, tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. in the high school at the gymnasium. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy our performance.
Okay, turn on the microphones.
All right, you might want to turn it for this part off. We're just going to do a vocal side to kind of fill the room so we can get a sense for the acoustics and how much volume we should have. All right, guys, here we go. 1, 2, 3. It's way back at the back table. So aim for there. Right about there. Okay. All right. All right. Forgive the crudity of having to use pitches from the phone, but since we don't have the piano tonight, we'll have to do it this way. Okay, so basic. Okay. This right here. Okay, who's sound? All right. Okay. Can everybody see me okay? I'm not ready. All right, ready? Hidem, 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 hidem,
Say encore, encore.
More tomorrow night. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
It was fun to see you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Go get pizza. Go get pizza. Oh, yeah. Make sure you thank Mrs. McKillop.
How do you follow that act? Um, Thank you, Ann. That was wonderful. Approval of the manifest.
Good evening. I certify that the manifest listed below totaling $2,078,945.31 have been reviewed by me and found to be proper charges against Kentucky Valley School District for goods and or services received and have been properly processed prior to their submittal to the school board.
I move that we approve the payment of the manifest.
Can I have a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions. Okay, thank you. At this point in our agenda is an opportunity for the public to address the board. Is anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the board? Okay, not seeing anyone at this point. Our student rep, Ryan, good evening.
Good evening. So at Conval the past couple weeks, first I got to actually experience a pretty cool thing outside of Conval and really part of the school board. So I got to go to a school board representative meeting in Concord where there was probably about 14 to 20 other kids from different schools. We learned about our role as school board rep, the amount that we can bring to our role, and there's definitely some things that I've definitely taken into thought and I plan to use at the next meeting. And we had last week we had the NHS Service Week where basically our honor society they kind of have different activities during tasks throughout the week. So some things included stocking stuffer, like bringing a stocking stuffer items. I participated in card making, and all the cards went to Scott Farrar. And then they had like wreath making today, I believe, and just a whole bunch of different activities that Miss Rushford puts on, and she does an amazing job putting it all together and getting all the kids to come join. And as of course, we have the performance tomorrow where you'll be able to see the choir and the band. So, yeah, those are big things.
Thank you, Ryan. So a suggestion, at the end of your term, maybe you would pass on the things that you've learned to the new rep so they come in with that additional knowledge. So thank you. I'm glad you went. That was great. Any questions for Ryan from board members? All right, great. Thanks, Ryan. And again, Ryan, at your pleasure when you need to leave. And next, teachers reps. We have two this evening. Would you please come up and introduce yourselves to the board? Even though I know you both, but right by that mic, and just make sure the little green light is on and bring it up to you.
It's on now. My name's Becca McLean,
I'm Christina Weston.
and we are both people that work at SMS. So I'm one of the art teachers at SMS. I teach 5th and 6th grade.
And I'm the 6th grade special ed teacher.
Yeah. So we have kind of very different kind of perspectives of the school, and that's definitely not the whole view of the school. So we put together a document that we sent out to the entire staff so that they could just brag about themselves a little bit and the cool things that happen at SMS. So I'm actually going to hand it out so you guys can see.
Thanks, Becca. So each of us decided to take just a couple of things that we wanted to talk about to highlight. And one of the things I wanted to talk about is the Special Olympics team will be going to Waterville Valley in March, and they're coached by Jen Greeno and Julie Anderson at SMS. And their winter games go from Monday to Wednesday. So they will be taking a team of 7 students up to Waterville Valley and then to UNH in June for the Summer Olympics. And what's really cool, Dick remembers this, when the kids come back after competing, the entire school gets
cool.
gets together, and we line the hallways. Everybody stands in the hallways, and the Olympians march through the school, and we all cheer them on. It's really cool. The other thing I wanted to talk about is Miss Sipes' reading wall. She is our 6th grade language arts teacher, and she has an entire wall. She takes pictures, and every student, there's a little picture of every student and some staff members. And on the wall, there are Velcro dots that go up. There are 40 of them, and the challenge is to read 40 books. So everybody's picture starts at the bottom, and as they read a book, they move their picture up the dots. And when a student or somebody finishes a book, they ring a cowbell and everybody applauds for them. So it's really cool. So anyway, those are 2 of the things that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, and I just wanted to jump in and put a plug in for our robotics team. So our robotics team has been doing some really great stuff, and they had, when this document went out, they had earned a spot in the state championships, which was really cool. And the kids are all just like loving it and having a really good time going through the engineer process and kind of learning how to go back in, reprogram, things like that. And there's more information about that in this doc. Another thing I wanted to bring up is the 5th and 7th grade science department. So they've been doing combined lessons where they've been kind of working together, kind of in a group setting, it's really cool to see the 7th graders become leaders and help teach the 5th graders, and kind of honestly vice versa. The 5th graders teaching the 7th graders a thing or two. Yeah, and those are like some of the two big things that I really wanted to bring up. Oh, another really cool thing was through library, we've been really, Heather Stearns is an amazing librarian, and she's really been able to set our library up this year in a really user-friendly model, so kids can come in there and use the space the way it should be. And we were able to do a virtual book talk with a few different authors, but Lewis Lowry, so about The Giver and about writing dystopian books. So we got to actually talk to the author, and the kids got to ask their questions, and it was really cool. So, and there's lots more stuff in there, but lots of cool things happening at SMS.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you for having us.
you're welcome. Thank you for coming. Board members, any questions? Right. Thank you both. Good to see you both.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Could somebody save me a copy of the packet?
Will do. Communication Committee, Alan?
It's been a interesting 2 weeks for the Communication Committee. We put on a community forum, which was well attended by the in-house audience, and also quite a number of views for the online audience. It's been, there are 2 sets of views on it. One was 150, the other was, I think, about 55 right now. So there's over 200 people that have viewed this thing online. And we put out a recap, and I'll give it to all the school board members, of what went on at the forum and who did what. And I'll send it out as soon as this thing's over. What we're doing now is that we just had a meeting with Budget and Property, and Budget and Property will be presenting options for the board to vote on from the Communication Committee on the CTE High School project. And the board will vote on that, and then depending on the vote, it's where we go with this. And then obviously, if the board votes to go forward, then it is up to the community to vote for what we're looking for on the high school CTE project. And I want to thank Dan, Tom, and Curtis for the work they've done on this. It's been phenomenal. We've been meeting at least once a week on this, and a lot of communications have been going on. Legal communications have been going on this also. And that's all I have right now.
Any questions? All right. I see that Janine isn't here. Policy is Jim. Thank you.
Sorry. Yep, in your package tonight, you'll see 2 versions of ACAC. Ann will discuss the first one. One policy AC for the non-discrimination, equal opportunity, anti-discrimination plan, and the IKF high school graduation plan. We are pulling the KFD for this evening. The intent there was to modify that plan to remove any hesitation from anyone to use an AED if they needed to, and that hasn't been modified in that policy yet. So we do want to pull that. We also have one policy that we want to rescind, and that's JBAB. The intent of that policy is now covered through AC. So we'll have those reads later. Yes.
Ann?
I think I confused this. We we shouldn't rescind JBAB tonight. We would rescind it at our next meeting when AC gets adopted.
True.
So this way, you've got it in your packet, you can look it over. But once AC is approved, then we'd be able to rescind.
That's correct. We need to get through the
Yep.
second read on AC first.
No problem. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Jim, budget and property.
So we just finished our budget property meeting just before this meeting, and we talked about a lot of things we're gonna talk about later, so I won't talk about those, but there were three things we will talk about. There are gonna be two brief, public there'll be public hearing for two brief, small requests for money for various project Tim has. Well, those will probably come up sometime in January, we'll have a public hearing. It's not a lot of money, but just to give you a heads up. One thing we didn't talk about, I had hoped to have by draft of the second financial article ready for everybody to look at tonight. We've come on some new information, got a new way of presenting stuff, but in summary, it's gonna try to explain to everybody why the average tax bill in the district grew up 13% last year, this December. It's not all the district. I think Peterborough knows their numbers went up 35%. I think Francistown only went up 1.5% on their municipal taxes. So I'm gonna try to lay all that out in an easy to follow manner and hope to have that draft to the communications committee here in the next couple days. The other thing we talked about was the feasibility finance effort. We need to kick that in gear after we get through this budget stuff, and I'm recommending that we set up, and we could talk about this right now, I think, about having a community forum focused on the warrant article items. We can either do it before or after the deliberative session. Should cover tax bills, the budget, the collective bargaining agreement, and the trust fund articles and the feasibility costs. There's a lot of stuff to cover in that community forum. So I don't know if you want to talk about that now, or everybody has thoughts on it, or we can.
I'm at the discretion of the board. I would think that if you're going to talk about it, if you have all your information after we've had the district meeting, then you could explain everything that took place at the district meeting, or you can provide information before. I think it's at the discretion of the board and what they would like to do as far as getting the information out. I think before the district meeting, you definitely should get as much information out to the public as you can about what's in the budget, what the warrant articles look like. So,
Well, the financial articles will be out before the deliberative session, but we'll have I think we should have the forum after the deliberative session, so that information is repeated
Right.
and fresher in our mind.
I think the forum after that to answer questions, but
Yeah.
even before that, getting as much information out to the public around the budget,
There will be-
where we are on warrant articles and all of that. So,
There will be financial articles in each of those before
Okay.
the deliberative session.
other thoughts on that from Ann?
Well, Brenda has a better memory than all of us. We already decided this, and she's booked space for us.
Oh, really?
So it's that time of year. So we identified 2/12 as the community forum night with a snow date of 2/19. See, we're ahead of ourselves. Isn't that great?
Good to know.
We've
That's
already
it.
done it.
So February 12th, deliberate session. Say again? February 4th, okay.
February 12th is the communications, the community forum is the 12th.
And the forum would be the 12th, okay. Well, I guess you got your answer.
I was
Don't
unaware of
ask
that.
me, ask Brenda. She knows everything.
And we will have a non-public discussion tonight too on the
Okay,
budget item.
sounds great.
I have a question for Jim. How come you
I don't know what you guys are talking about. Any other questions for Jim at this point? All right, let's go on to the consent agenda. Any questions on the consent agenda? Okay, not seeing any. Superintendent's report. Ann.
So our calendar. There's nothing, oh, we have Selectmen's Advisory this Thursday, right? Is that happening? Yes, okay.
Yes.
And that's it for the rest of this week, right? And
That is
there's- And
correct.
there's nothing over the 2 weeks.
Correct,
breaks.
correct.
That's exciting. Okay, January. So in January, the first week in January, on the 7th, we have budget and property, and then we have a school board meeting at 7. Anything else that week? Is communications meeting? Okay.
All right. So, nothing on
Um,
the 7th.
And
You'll have nothing on the 7th then?
I don't know.
January 7th, I do have a sign yet,
Okay,
Okay.
so I'll put it back there.
okay. All right.
anything else the week of the 6th or the week of the 13th, which is empty right now? Oh, we've got hearings we need to schedule, right?
I was thinking we would have a communications meeting on either the 7th or the 14th.
Yeah,
We'll decide on that.
All right. I don't, there's nothing in communications yet. And then you got the 21st.
But we have to schedule the public hearing.
Okay. 4.
For budget.
So is it January 14th?
Mm-hmm.
January 14th, we're going to have a public hearing on the budget.
That's the last,
That's. all
oh,
right.
the last day to post notice of
Okay.
budget hearing.
It's the last day we can post. Do you want to have a hearing? Do you want to have a hearing before the 14th? A budget hearing?
We can have the hearing after that date as long as we post by that date.
You have to post by that date.
Could we do the hearing on the 21st before the meeting?
Yeah, so.
Jim, Rob, do you have any
So I will take guidance from budget and property or the superintendent. We know we have to post by the 14th, and we know we have to hold the hearing by the 21st.
So why not go with Thursday, the 16th, after posting on the 14th, and then with a snow date of the 21st?
Brenda? Okay,
What did you just say?
16th?
The 16th.
With the-
That would work. I had plugged in the 14th and the 21st of a snow date just in my mock-up, so
okay.
that works. That works?
Mike?
Tuesday, January 14th, the last day for negotiated cost items to be finalized. So that, what it comes down to is, finalize, does that mean when does the board and the union have to approve the contract?
We were hoping for the 7th.
Right. I just want to make people aware that if we don't make the 7th, because it's going to be tight on the 7th, then we have to have the board vote and the union vote on a proposed contract by the 14th, that Tuesday. So we may very well have to have a special session. So just keep that in mind.
Well, if we need to do that, we can do that. We just have to post it and make sure
Right,
that
understand.
that's fine. So,
We could post it for the 16th if we had to.
No, it has to be last date for negotiated cost items to be finalized. I guess that question is, what does finalized mean? We've reached agreement and and the board and the union both have to, Rob?
Yes. The finalized means you've ratified, both parties have ratified the
Okay.
agreement.
So we have to have that, keep that date in mind. The 14th is a,
so on the 14th, we're going to be looking to post, and then we'll have the,
it might be a quick meeting just to vote if we need to. We can't do it on the 7th.
and the 16th will be
The budget hearing.
budget hearing.
And the 14th would be the last day for the negotiated cost
Okay.
items. But hopefully that will be done on the 7th.
Okay.
Why would you do the 16th?
So we're hoping for the 7th to have finalized contract. If we don't, have to have it by the 14th, and then we will have the hearing on the 16th. If we have it by the 7th, we could then use the 14th to have the hearing.
But I would have to post before that date. I usually post at the end of December, all of
Okay.
the dates of the public hearing, open positions of the school board, petition warrant article deadlines, district meeting, and March 11th vote, all in one public notice.
So you'd be in danger if you held the hearing on the 14th of not having
Posted.
a number to talk about
What
until that
hearing-
night,
What hearing on the 14th?
the
Budget?
budget hearing. So we would want to reserve the 14th for the potential of having to ratify a contract. And then the 16th, we could still hold a budget hearing with a snow date of the 21st, which is the last date for the budget hearing, right?
Okay. I'll set Brenda with that now.
What time?
7? Okay. And we have board meeting on the 21st, selectmen advisory on the 23rd, and we got policy on the 28th of January. That's it for now. Okay?
Yep.
Sounds good.
Do I have any outstanding board requests? So there's been a request around programming for gifted and talented students. So we're trying to dig into a policy that came up because the current policy doesn't give much information. So I will follow back up on that.
All right, let's go to old business. Jim, proposed budget.
I think Ann and Robert are going
Ann.
to present
Okay?
revised budget. Everybody should have a copy. You already passed it out, right? You have a new revenue sheet. You should have a new revenue sheet and a new cost sheet. Cost sheet is two-sided, revenue sheet is one-sided.
So as you look at that, would you like me to kind of talk about the work administration has done?
Yes.
So we've continued to work on the budget. The board's goal was 2.5. One of the things that also in the board's guidance was to have classes that fall within the recommended class size guidelines. And you've heard a lot about how we have looked to the middle school and high school, that we also need to look to the elementary school. So just to back up in history a little bit, I know that we have talked about consolidation for a long, long time. And the board, from my perspective, made a commitment last year to put it on a warrant article for the communities to decide. And the communities decided, and what we heard loud and clear is our communities value their elementary schools in their towns. And what I've heard from this board is that they're going to honor what they have heard from the community. So that has now come back to administration for us to look at our smaller schools and come up with a sustainable model. So that is something that administration has been talking about. We looked at class size guidelines. One of the things that we have done to bring our budget down is reduce 6 elementary classroom teachers, which sounds like a jaw-dropping amount. But if we do that, we will have 40 classes at the elementary level. Out of those classes, 70% of them will have enrollments below our recommended class size guidelines. So I'm going to say that one more time. So even though we're talking about reducing 6 teachers, which would leave us with 40 classes at the elementary level, 70% of those classes would still be below our recommended class size guidelines. And then 30% would fall within our recommended class size guidelines.
So 70% are below your minimum recommended class size.
Our class size guidelines by policy, for example, for kindergarten is 15 to 18. So if we had a kindergarten classroom that was below 15, that would be showing up in the 70% below. It does create more multi-grade classes. So the other thing that we're talking about as administrators is we need to kind of reframe how we think about multi-grade. We need to rethink how we approach and do things, and really focus on supporting teachers to have multi-grade classrooms. Multi-grade classrooms are not a new thing. There's a history of multi-grade classes, of one-room schoolhouses. There is research to support that it is an effective model. We also recognize that there are challenges. And so our focus right now is thinking about what are those barriers and how can we support teachers to be effective in a multi-grade classroom. And speaking for myself, I'm absolutely embracing this. I think there's absolutely some value to multi-grade classrooms. We have classes with 8 or 9 kids, or sometimes 7. And those children are together for 5 years, K to 4. So I would argue that may not be the best socially for children to grow and develop. We also know from research that kids don't just learn from their teachers, they very much learn from their peers. So when we have smaller class sizes, we're also potentially minimizing the amount of learning that they're able to do. So our focus is going to be on tapping into our teachers currently who teach multi-grade classrooms, and we have quite a few that have been doing it probably for their whole career here, or on and off for their whole career, so we have some expertise right in our district. we're also going to be looking at curriculum that will help teachers and support teachers with multi-grade classrooms. And that has been a challenge in more recent years because of the standards-based movement. A lot of curriculum was developed where it was second grade curriculum, third grade curriculum, and fourth grade curriculum. And as a teacher, a challenge can be how do you seamlessly bring those together if you have a range of students in front of you. But there are also curriculum resources that are designed for K to 2, 3 to 5. If you look at our state standards, and if you follow a thread, sometimes the standard from kindergarten to first grade is just the difference of a phrase in it, right? That it's just extending the learning a little bit more. So if we getting the right resources can be a huge help for our teachers. So we are digging into that and will be, and we will have next summer to continue that work and support our teachers. So again, that number sounds high, but we're still going to have small classes and our focus will be on supporting teachers. So that is that is kind of the big thing that has happened since we last met. We also reduced, we had reduced one high school teacher at the, in an earlier version. We've reduced another high school teacher. We have reduced technology by 50,000. So we made some other adjustments. And so now our number, which Rob, you probably have in front of you, we didn't get to 2.5. We were at 3.13% increase from our approved budget of last year. So that includes overall a reduction of 11 teachers, K to 12, with I believe 4 paras.
Questions?
Would the multi-grades be more than 2 classrooms? Is there a chance there could be 3 classrooms in one?
Could be.
Jim
The-
Kingston?
Oh.
I saw him first, but wait just a second, Jim.
So the one number that we've questioned a couple of times, it's still on here, is the $770,000 increase in pupil transportation over the actual 2023, significantly over the actual 2023-24 expenses. And the 23-24 expenses were where you saw and captured the excessive transportation fees. So that was at 2.5 million, call it. We have a budget this year of 2.8 million, which is already a $300,000, $200,000 increase over the 2023-24 actuals. And then we're looking at an additional 770,000 above and beyond that in the proposed budget. So there's a number that could easily save a teacher. Right?
So the costs are coming from, well, first I want to, and Rob, you can speak this too. I do want to say that first, our bus company, we have connected with the regional person who has been working with us, and we've had some nice movement and more. They've gotten more drivers to support us. But the cost of transportation for our special education students and our students that qualify under McKinney-Vento has increased significantly, and the transportation costs for students that we're transporting from into the district, out of the district, as well as within the district, the costs are just
The actual cost of operations from the vendors is not only increasing significantly, but just the sheer volume of the requests that we have for specialized transportation is skyrocketing. So we wanted to budget rather conservatively, just to make sure. And we are working with our transportation provider and getting I think we did a few combined, what do they call them? Not the garage.
Terminals.
The terminals. You know, we share terminals with other terminals that STA is operating. So they found some savings for us for some specialized transportation as well. And we're exploring every option when we can.
Yeah, I mean,
Chairman
that,
Frederickson, then I'll come back.
Yeah, sorry. I was just gonna comment that the total of the health insurance increase of 1.25 million and the 770 in the pupil transportation account for more than the total increase in the budget. So we've scrubbed, Ann has done they've scrubbed the budget. It's a 3.31% increase in the total operational budget, which is higher than the 2.5, but I'm good with that.
Hey, Jim?
yeah, my comment should not be taken as a,
Oh, I didn't.
you
I
know,
didn't.
kind of criticism. The fact that you've gotten here with the increases that Jim just mentioned in insurance is amazing, but you know, at some point we need to push back on these transportation things because a 30% increase in transportation costs in 2 years is, like many things, not sustainable.
Mike?
And I think besides the fact that just those two items make up as much as the budget is increased, we also are looking at almost $650,000 less revenue from the state of New Hampshire to help us with the costs that we incur. So when you put that on top of everything, I think, you know, that's really well done budget.
Aaron?
Just back to the transportation piece one more time. How much of that increase is being accrued by us having to cover costs of transportation that our provider is not covering? And have we looked any further into whether there's an obligation on them to cover those additional costs?
We've been gathering information from all the buildings to make sure that we have a comprehensive list. So that's where we are right now.
Jim Frederickson?
The only thing I want to add is I made the comment before about those two pieces being almost more than the total increase of the budget. Last year it was 3 pieces total. The year before that we had a 1.35% increase. So for people to say we're not controlling our operational costs is just not true. We've been tight. We've been managing the budget extremely well. We can't control things we can't control, right? And that will come out in the financial article. I put that whole story together for everybody to read.
Any other questions on the proposed budget? I would entertain a motion. Could I have a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any further questions? Seeing none, those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions. Okay, I didn't hear any noes or any abstentions. Am I correct? Okay, thank you.
No
Thank
follow-on
you.
question? When
Yes,
will we have
Jim.
the default budget? Tomorrow?
By noon tomorrow. How about that?
So the next thing we'll be looking for, now that the budget has been approved, is looking at what the default budget would look like, and that's going to take a few days. So thank you, guys. Board members, we have bus transportation, the RFQ. I spoke to our consultant for business manager today, and Dave Jack, who is very knowledgeable about transportation and cost. His recommendation is we do not put an RFP out this year, that we withhold that and wait until October of next year due to the uncertainty of fuel costs, diesel costs. We're looking 18 months out. He said to get a real fair projection from these companies that far out would probably be higher than if we waited until we could bring it forward next year. So my recommendation to the board is that we wait and bring it back to the board to have those proposals go out so we can have a response back by October. So all I need is a thumbs up from you that we can do that and we can go on from there. Okay, that's what we'll do. So we'll pull it back and then we will work forward and coming out with another RFP so that can go out for next year when you build your budget. Thank you. You have a board vote required on this Title IX regulation. Is that still up?
Yes.
Okay.
Got too many papers, sir. We have a family who joined an organization that is part of a lawsuit in Kansas related to Title IX. When a family or when a parent joins this organization, if they have children that attend public schools, and in this case, the parent has a child in 3 of our schools, different children, 3 different schools, we become enjoined to the Kansas case. The recommendation from the New Hampshire Department of Education, not New Hampshire, sorry, the federal government, is we need to implement the Title IX regulations from 2020. Just in those 3 schools. And we would implement the updated 2024 regulations in the other schools. So it makes it a little bit more complicated for our Title IX coordinator. I'll be able to help more with the 2020 because I know them very well. The big piece that is not covered under the 2020 regulations is gender identity is not protected under the Title IX 2020 regulations. Gender identity is a protected class under other state laws. So, if somebody was discriminated against for their gender identity, it would still be considered discrimination. It just wouldn't be a violation of the 2020 Title IX regulations. I tried to keep it simple, so I'm happy to answer questions because it's.
So what would you want from the board for a vote on the fact that we were talking about three schools? How would you like that to be brought forward?
Any school impacted by this?
Can I have a second?
I would actually amend that.
But I need a
So-
second first. Okay, I've had a motion and a second. Aaron, you want to?
I would like to amend that in an effort to not have to continuously bring this to board votes if it continues to increase. I would move that we adopt the 2020 version of policy ACAC in any schools in our district impacted by this.
Can I have a second? Okay, so we have an amendment on the floor to amend the original motion. All those any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor,
Can you clarify the amendment?
Yep, sorry, I'll say that a little bit louder. So the amended motion is that we approve the use of the 2020 version of policy ACAC in any schools in our district that are impacted by this, this court case.
did you hear that?
Yeah.
Yes, no?
Yes.
All right. So the vote is on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nays? Any abstentions? All right, the motion passes with the amendment. I believe that will meet your needs. Okay.
Then we have to
Um,
vote on the amended motion.
Now, the motion on the floor will be the original amendment with the motion, and we have a second for that. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions, okay. Warrant articles.
To list them, I could, for everybody's sake, list what the warrant article is gonna be and go from there. Warrant Article 1 is always the operating budget, which we just approved. Warrant Article 2, which will be the collective bargaining agreement, which we'll talk about non-public. Warrant Article 3 would be a special meeting in case the collective bargaining agreement doesn't pass. Then I'm not sure what the order would be, whether the CTE, if we decide to go forward with the CTE, whether that be the fourth one. And then there will be several trust fund warrant articles. And recommendation from Budget and Property we talked about is only to have 2 trust fund warrant articles this year. We looked at our budget, we looked at where all those funds are. We looked at our budget goals, and we think that we don't need to fund anything except the capital improvement budget. Capital reserve, building capital reserve fund, I should say. We talked previously about the health maintenance fund using $500,000. We had a public hearing in July to apply that to help reduce the budget. We didn't get the paperwork went to the state, didn't allow for that to impact the taxes. We're going to do that. We talked last board meeting about doing it again. I think we all agree it doesn't make sense to do it again. So it boils down to a recommendation. We'll have 2 warrant articles for a total of $900,000, splitting the funding for the capital reserve into $500,000, $400,000 pieces. Those won't impact the direct district assessment you see on the sheet here because we'll get money in and money back out. Okay?
Thank you, Chairman. Any questions?
And we vote on that in January.
And then we'll list, then you will
We'll
list
we'll have
the
full-
order of the
we'll-
warrant
we'll have
articles.
the full document listed.
Right. Okay.
That's a separate discussion after this.
Well, right. We have the CT regional agreement.
I didn't know if the CTE was, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about the
Oh,
CTE
yeah.
under the
Okay, I
warrant,
thought- I was-
because
I did- I read
later
that.
on
I
it's
read- I
listed,
read
but
it-
it's related to
read
the
it
regional
wrong.
agreement.
So the discussion we had in budget property was, what do we do with the high school project? And we, based on input, and help me if I say this wrong, Ellen, I think everybody agrees that we should not try to move forward with the high school auditorium upgrade. Lucy Sterling Theater is gonna stay the way she is. So the only other options are then is to move forward with the CT high school project. That'd be $38 million project, 75% from the state, if I correct my numbers. Pardon? Right. And then the other option is to not do anything. We didn't need to decide that yet. The only thing we want to decide tonight is we all agree we don't want the high school auditorium will not be part of any further discussions this year.
So I take a motion from the board that we will not bring forward a warrant article on funding
I'll
the
make that
theater
motion.
at Conval.
I'll make that motion and continue my train of
Okay.
thought then.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions from board members? All right. Being sensitive to what we heard, this is the first step forward in addressing that. The next thing is we're going to take a look at the CTE and the high school renovations, but we're still looking for some information back from the architects. So we'll bring that forward at another date before we make a decision on that. So all those in favor of not bringing forward the theater indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstention. Okay. I just want the community to understand that we do hear you, and we are trying very hard to be as sensitive as we can to all the taxpayers. And we also are taxpayers, so we're also sensitive to what these cost factors are. So thank you. Policy first read. Tim?
Right, so in your packets this evening, you have AC, non-discrimination, equal opportunity employment, and anti-discrimination plan. And in that, there is a guidance beyond what is the New Hampshire School Board Association to ensure that the superintendent provides clarity in a plan to make sure that all protected classes have a plan on an annual basis, and review that and let the board know that that plan is available. Right? ACAC is the 2024 or 23, I'm not sure which year it is, but not the 2020 version, but the 2024 version of ACAC Title IX that is also in your packet for a first read. IKF, high school graduation, is in your packet. The primary change over past versions of IKF is that there is no longer a need for, as a graduation requirement, for students to fill out the FAFSA. Right? That we still will provide students information on how and where they can do that, but it is no longer a high school graduation requirement to fill out a FAFSA. And we have pulled KFD from the packet tonight. We'll put that out for a first read at our next meeting. And JVAB, again, as we stated earlier, we will not be voting on rescinding that this evening because we want AC in place prior to rescinding that policy.
There's only one change to the or policy ACAC, the 2024, and that is related to the timeline. One of the changes when they went from the 2020 regulations to 2024 is they condensed the timeline. In the old regulation, it's weeks. They really condensed it. So, for example, when we have to investigate a report of bullying, we have 10 school days to investigate. For Title IX, we end up having 11 school days. It doesn't identify school days, it just identifies days. And so we only have one more day to do an investigation for Title IX. Yet for Title IX, you need to connect with parents, you have to send out a letter, you have to find a time their parents are allowed to be present and typically are present, so you need to schedule a time that works for parents. So the ability to get everything done in the new timeline outlined in the policy is just too condensed. So the only addition is when you go to the timeline, instead of days, we changed it to school days. So it's not lengthening it a tremendous amount, but enough to make it doable. But that was the only change is we added school to school days in the timeline.
Thank you. CTE regional agreement.
I'm going to ask Jen to come up, our director of CT, to talk about, we have a regional agreement. We're in the same region as Conant and Massinic, and we need to redo this every 3 years. So I'm just asked Jen to kind of give you a summary of what's in the agreement.
Certainly. So it is very similar to our previous agreement. The big change is that previous regional agreements were renewed every 20 years. Now they're renewed every 4 years in alignment with our Perkins local plan, which we have to put together in order to be able to be viable for Perkins federal funding from the state. We are still in an agreement with the Jaffrey Ringe District as well as the Messinic School District. The percentages remain the same regarding how many seats will be allocated to sending versus receiving schools. All 3 sites are still sending and receiving sites. One significant change is that Conant and Messinic are recognized as having CTE programs, but not recognized as being CTE centers.
Questions from board members?
Yes.
Yeah, Aaron.
Does that mean that Conval students are able to attend classes under the CTE program at those 2 schools?
Yes. Yes, we can still attend programs. We have one CTE center for Region 14. It is classified in the regional agreement that we're asking for our board chairs to sign as the centers primarily located at Peterborough and the other 2 are satellite locations.
Jim?
Say again what you said about a center versus a, does that have any implications for the state funding of the CTE projects?
So we were able, each location was eligible to make an application for renovation under the 22-24 regional agreement, which Commissioner Edelblut had us put in place so that all 3 locations would be eligible to put forward those applications. The applications are in, they've been accepted, so this new regional agreement would not have any effect on that.
So the board vote will,
There was another question.
oh,
sir.
Aaron, I'm sorry.
The other districts sending to the center at Conval, do those districts also provide funding that goes towards the CTE center?
No, they support their own programming. So, for example, Conant supports the construction trades program through its local budget, as we do for ours through our local budget. Messinic supports automotive through their local budget, and then the Perkins funding is supplementary.
Ann?
I'll just add with a contract, we did have legal review. Legal reviewed this for us, provided some feedback, which we incorporated. So it has been thoroughly.
It's been vetted.
So what the board will be voting on is authorizing the board chair to sign the agreement. Any questions from board members? Okay. Could I have a motion to authorize the board chair to sign the CTE regional agreement with Conant Messinic? It's been moved. Can I have a second? It's moved and seconded. Any questions? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstention. Okay. Thank you, Jen. Expense and encumbrance, please.
Okay, so you have in your packet the expense encumbrance report and ending November 30th of this year. I'm just going to walk through a few account lines because I'm sure you have questions. So I want to alleviate some fears. There's quite a bit of things in the budget that we have to, we've had to encumber much more than we anticipated. There are also things in the budget that we are not expending to as much as we thought we would. So if you see salary lines that are in the negative, or a better example would be the 323, the pupil services. That's encumbered quite a bit, but that is also a lot of our contracted services that we're providing because we can't fill positions. So the position budget lines and the associated benefits are not being spent. There are other places in like 130 that's been overspent and over encumbered. That might need a budget transfer because that is payroll encumbrances at GBS. The 200 range of all the insurance and other benefits, those have not been encumbered in our budget for some reason during the rollover. So I'm going to keep an eye on those. You can see that they're all well over 50%, which is good because we will have enough funding to cover them even though they're not encumbered. It's just it hasn't shown up yet as encumbrances, and that'll be fine. We already talked about pupil transportation. Of course, we're encumbering a lot for specialized transport for students. We do have a budget balance throughout the 1200 special ed line right now. So things like the special ed transportation and contracted services are made up elsewhere with open positions and things that we have not spent. And a lot of this is just heavily encumbered for some reasons or another. A lot of the times I will look at where we are spending at this moment in time. So we're almost to the halfway point of the year. If we've spent only 40% of our budget, I feel comfortable that we're in a good place, even though the encumbrances might be quite high. Now that we've finalized a budget amount, my focus can shift a little bit into going through some of the purchase orders and the encumbrances, seeing where we can reduce them, seeing where we can eliminate, purchase orders that we're not using anymore. So the next couple months, we'll get a clearer picture of where we stand in the budget. A lot of these encumbrances will be reduced, and we'll have a better picture of where we are.
Questions from board members? Jim?
I move that we approve the expense encumbrance report and all encumbrances included therein.
Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions. Thank you. At this point in our agenda is for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the board? Not seeing any. We are going to have a non-public. I don't think we need to take a vote when we come out, do we? No. All right, so we won't be taking a vote when we come out. We'll just come out, and this is information. Personnel? Oh, student and personnel and contracts. Okay. Under RSA 91-A:3, common Roman 2, I move that we go into non-public. Dick? All right, we're now into non-public. Thank you.